Malaysia, Guru, Kurega, Pongu, Saba, you the one we are. Kazan will lie. The good Satan. That is we are. To bring the idea. I think that both are super credit for them for them. So the things are needed. So that the answer is not on the other. To be the outcome. To be outcome of the outcome of the solution. I remember saying that to be the body. A thing is we have to be the body, we have the body and how much is that? Since I got said, you don't know how to be the Yavo. The body Kanda, the Kanda, the Yaki. But this is a matter in a lava, you don't know. Live by a job, you know, none of the Kidala, Korea, Pahim, Kidana, she used it for her. Kidana did not tell you. Somebody did not tell you that. We are measuring what you want. I don't tell you. She finds, say, by Chico. There are real teachers. She by Lango, Baba, Maga. And Baba, Maga. She is therefore cut off the feeling as a yoga. Two judges, the Ayala, Silla. Say, Europe, Silla. Say, Leah, people will show you about it. Silla, Yama, Yogi, Yaki, set up the door. So the list that your power. And then say, you're not so severe. So be aware. So you know where to Yabo, who's the brother. So you know where to Yabo.
Yesterday, Sayadawgyi spoke about how as now, when the yogis observe among the large fields of observation that arise in the body, starting with the rising and the falling, there's the nature of matter, rupa, there's Vedana or feeling, acts of consciousness, chitta, and the other various actions. These are the large fields of observation within our body, and within these, when the ever new arising object to be observed arises, when we observe this with ardent effort and accurate aim, again and again, as we do this many times, then sati becomes good. And to the extent that sati is good, concentration or samadhi also becomes good. And when the mind meets with the object exactly, precisely, then knowledge arises. At this time, there are the factors of virya, sati, and samadhi, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. that is the samadhi khanda, or a group of factors, the samadhi group. And the accurate aim of the mind so that it meets exactly with the object, and knowing the nature of what is happening, this is panya, the panya khanda. So there's the samadhi group of the path and the panya, or wisdom group of the path. This makes up the fivefold path, and this path goes straight to nibbana. From the start, we are keeping sila, so there are the three factors of the sila morality group of the path, the three factors of the samadhi or concentration group of the path, and the two factors of the panya or wisdom group of the path. So there are 8 parts, 8 things that arise, and these make up the Forerunner Path, the path which precedes the Noble Path or Arya Path. This Forerunner Path is called in Pali Pobabhaga Magga. And this, when one comes to know the fast arising and passing away of phenomena, a special taste of the Dhamma arises. There are 10 kinds of special things which arise at this stage in the practice. And yesterday Sayadawgyi spoke about how light arises at this stage in the practice. In the text, this is described very extensively, all the varieties of the ways the yogis experience this. But at this time, there isn't enough time to go into detail like this. So please permit Sayadawgyi to summarize.
သိရတယ်လွဲဆုံးမသွားရအောင်ပေါ့အဲ့ဒါကိုရှိမှရပါဘူး
This light, for some yogis, it just lights up what is right around them, their immediate environment. And for some yogis, there's just light once. For some yogis, it can be all day long. So there are various ways that this light can be experienced. And it's something, when one has never experienced it before, this light, when at this time one's blood becomes very clean. This is how the light happens to arise, is that the blood becomes very clean. The mind is clean, and therefore light emerges. And this is called Chittapatya Uru Samotana Rupa. So it is because of the bhavana mind, the meditative mind. It creates this, how we say, Uru, environmental quality, environmental rupa, and this makes light. And because one has never experienced this before, one thinks, now I've got special Dhamma, now I've realized path knowledge, now I've realized fruition knowledge. So this is what the yogi can think at this time. And therefore, a good teacher at this point is very important in order to set the yogis straight, because they have this misconception. So what is happening is that one's observation of mind and matter, which is related as cause and effect, one observes it arising and passing away, and one's knowledge is continuous. Therefore the mind is very, very clean. And one thinks that this is special Dhamma. Therefore one takes pleasure in it. And because one takes pleasure in it, one's progress stops at that point. And taking pleasure, this type of phenomena is called a defilement of insight, because it becomes the cause for us to take pleasure, which is a defilement. So when the light arises, one has to observe it as a brightness, or light. One has to note it precisely, so that one won't go to the extent of delighting in the experience, and so that one's knowledge won't slip.
Pina Manu, Pina, I think it's so we don't follow you. We are the people to see the so you have the Uberton for keep your dollar really. So you have Uberton and still at the Padana. So you Uberton and sit at Okoha. Nothing to me, young iron. Kubi, Kubi, get dollar really. Sushi Sasa. Good that the Harry. Parama is doing the old man. Everyone, Sarah, to have a take the Dada, everything and the Kedara. The Ariana, Luciana, Corona, Lira, Diana, Guru, Manina, the Golu City, Lira, the Messiah of water. Very loud. The other common at that part of it.
And next, there is jnana, knowledge. This is vipassana knowledge. Vipassana knowledge is not just being able to discern mind and matter, not just being able to see how they're related as cause and effect, but when one observes mind and matter, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, leaning, lifting, moving, placing, there's mind and matter arising and passing away in one's body. And at the start of the practice, one just sees just like big lumps. One just has to keep on trying to observe it. And what one sees is just like gross. It's seeing at a gross level. But at this stage in the practice, one sees how things arise and then pass away, how they start and then finish, and one sees this again and again and again very quickly. When one notes the rising, one observes a whole series of risings, one rising after another. When one notes the falling, one sees a whole series of fallings, and they're all very clear. So one sees them happening all at once. So one's knowledge becomes able to see in a very broad way, very detailed way. So this is vipassana knowledge. And when one sees with vipassana knowledge, then the object is very, very clear at this stage. And there's no confusion or lack of clarity at all. The vision is very distinct and clear. And because of this, because it is so clear, one thinks, oh, this is special Dhamma, I've got it now. Because before, not only is it very clear, but before, one would miss the object every now and then. But now, there's no missing. This is how good the knowledge can become at this stage.
ဒီကိုယ်ပုံများနှောင်းကောင်းလားဆိုပြီးတော့ဒီကရင်ပို့ပြီးတော့သိကြတယ်လည်းစောက်နေရတော့ဆယ်လုံးကြီးကိုယ်ပုံမှာမကြောက်လို့ဝုန်းလက်ကိုကျတော့ဒီကပဒေအလုံးကြီးလည်းခါလေးကျသွားလို့အားသိပြီးတော့ဖြစ်တယ်ဒီလိုလိုတော့တခါတခါလည်းကိုယ်ကြီးပေါ်ကြွတဲ့လူတွေဒီလိုကြွတယ်လို့ရှိပါတယ်တခါတခါလည်းမျက်စိတော်မှမဖွင့်ရတော့အောင်သမဏခံစားလို့ကောင်းတဲ့ဆရာပြည်ပြည်တွေပေါ့ဆိုတာကိုသိနေတော့ဒီဘက်ရောက်လာလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်ကြီးကြွတဲ့လူတွေလို့ဒီလိုလိုပြက်လာပြီးတော့လူတို့ခဏလောက်ပဲပြောပြီးတော့လာတော့အဲ့ဒါကိုပြည်ပြည်တွေဖြစ်လာတော့တရားလို့သိရတော့အောင်ပေါ့လို့အဲ့လိုပြည်ပြည်တွေလည်းဖြစ်တတ်ပါတယ်
Whatever work one does when one has an objective and one knows how to do the work correctly, and one goes about working methodically, respectfully, keeps at it, making effort carefully. So when the causes are present, then results will come. And when one works a little bit, then one feels a little bit of joy or piti. So one can feel joy in one's practice. One can feel goose flesh. One can feel like flashes of lightning, jolts. Or it can seem like, the feeling can be like if one were sitting by the edge of the ocean and one were to see a big wave coming and one wonders, is it going to overwhelm me? That's how one may feel when the piti starts to arise. It seems like it just comes crashing like a big wave. And sometimes the body feels like it's floating up, and one doesn't want to open one's eyes at times because it feels so good. So the joy that spreads throughout one's body is this dharana piti. So when one reaches this stage, feeling how the body just seems to be floating up, or the joy just spreads throughout the whole body. This is piti, or joyous interest. And it is so much joy that one thinks that this is special Dhamma.
You know, what's that piece for that for? What's that piece for that? Pubamu is here. The fact Pubamu, say Pubamu, go Pubamu to the Ijan, what's that piece? Salava Dia Yada to you, whatever. So the Ijan will be called out to the Pubamu is here. Ko re po bawa se de po bawa se da le le na si kiro ni na si ma ra le de se to da le ko le ko ni ya da a pu ju si so le so da se da ni so ya de ya do da haကိုယ်ကကျမ်းမာတယ်ကြတော့စိတ်ကကျမ်းမာနေတယ်လို့မကျမ်းမာလို့ဘောလို့လုံနန္ဒာကြီးပေါ့လို့ဟုတ်လားသိရှင်လမ်းလမ်းတည်းဖြစ်တာပေါ့မှာဒီကကြတော့လမ်းလမ်းဆန်းဆန်းသိရှင်လမ်းလမ်းတကယ်ကိုလူမာကြီးတွေဖြေပြီးတော့စိတ်တွေပေါင်းတာဒီတော့အဲ့ဒီကမှကျောက်သွင်းတဲ့သဘောကိုပေါ်လာကျိုးတဲ့သဘောကိုပေါ်လာငဘိုးကခန့်နေရခုမှားခဲ့တဲ့အားလေးတွေပေါ့မှားခဲ့တဲ့အားလေးပေါ်လာဒါလေးမှားလို့လုပ်ခဲ့ပြီမှားလို့ပြောခဲ့ပြီဆိုတော့ပေါ့ပြန်ပေါ်ရအမှုတွေ ဒါကိုစားတာပဲဆိုတော့ကိုယ်လည်းဝန်ခံစောင့်ကြပေးရတာဆရာသမားတို့လည်းစောင့်ကြပေးတာလို့ဒါကြီးမှားရပါတယ်ဆိုတော့နောက်ဒါကြီးမှားတော့ပါဘူးစောင့်နေခြင်းရိုးသားသားနဲ့သွားပါတော့မယ်ဆိုတော့အဲဒီလိုမျိုးပြောလဲဖြစ်လာတော့မယ်ဒါကောင်းတဲ့လက္ခဏာတွေပါဒီလိုမျိုးလက္ခဏာတွေပေါ်လာတော့သမဏကောင်းပါလေဒါတရားထုတ်တဲ့အခါမှာအခုလိုအပြည့်အစုံကိုဖတ်တဲ့သူ့ရဲ့ပိုင်းရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီဘဝရဲ့အင်းကြမ်းမှုကစပေါ်ပါပါသိစင်းနေတွတ်လက်လုံးလာမှုရှိသေးတယ်ပါဘူး။ညောင်လာကြီးဟောက်ခရပါဘူး။ဒီလိုခဏကောင်းပြီးရှင်းနေတာပါ။အဲဒီလိုဒီဆာမျိုးလည်းပေါ်တော့တယ်ဆိုတော့တရားရည်ရှိရပါ
Then there is passaddhi, tranquility. At this time, when passaddhi is present, there is no weariness in the body and mind. The body and mind don't feel weary at all. This is one type of taste of the Dhamma. And because there's no tiredness at all, the mind feels light. It's not heavy. And there's no difficulty in doing the work of noting. Everything goes smoothly without a hitch. It's very easy. And before, in the practice, one felt a bit like a sick person at times with aches and pains. But now one feels completely fresh, like a really healthy person. And also, the mind becomes very upright. So when one was quite young, the wrong things that one did or one said, these come up in one's mind. One remembers, oh, I did this. It was wrong. I said this. It was wrong. And one admits this to oneself about what one remembers. And one also confesses to the teachers about the wrongs that they did long ago, and saying, I won't do this again, I won't do this type of thing ever again. So this is a good sign. This is a sign of a good person. It's very good. And these qualities that arise at this stage in the practice of seeing the fast arising and passing away, how one feels very tranquil, without any weariness, no heaviness, very healthy, able to work well, light, and so on. It's so much so that one thinks that this is special Dhamma.
Guru says that you have whoever you can be able Guru says that Guru says that the minute the other is the body. The Dhamma Sapiya now has the body you see that Sagitakriya, Katisakriya, you take the physical Maya Atu the Pokuma. Guru says that the Atana Yoga body. Atu the Pokuma. She can put it to that. She can read over it. For any of the iron, so that she has to utter the Pokuma. Then the Yaga, Toga, that you tell you there. Not a matter of Hajaro, you tell them the home, you never said that. Then you find out how to say it or not. You can tell you the people, my body, this way for you to let you. Cut it, she feels for a teacher. And the teacher there, fine ma. How many do that? 40 years old. ကာမဘုံမှာကာမဂုဏ်တိုက်နေတဲ့ကာမဘုံသားတွေကာမဂုဏ်ဆန္ဒအကောင်းဆုံးလို့ဘုရားထင်ရတာသူ့ရဲ့သာတဲ့ကောင်းတဲ့ဆန္ဒတွေ့ခေါ်တဲ့သူ့အရှင်ပြီးတော့လူကာမဂုဏ်ဆန္ဒလက်တမ်းမရှိတဲ့ဆန္ဒတမျိုးတဲ့အမှန်လို့ရှိရတိအပြောင်းလို့ပေါ်လာတယ်ဆရာပေါ်လာတဲ့ဆရာဆောက်ပြီးတော့လကောကမကွာနိုင်တဲ့ကာမဂုဏ်ဆန္ဒဘာမှအရှိရှိတော့ကာမဂုဏ်ဆန္ဒလက်တမ်းမရှိတဲ့ကာမဂုဏ်ဆန္ဒတွေကိုကြော်ဆက်ပြီးတော့သွားရဲ့စိတ်ကောင်းတဲ့အဖြစ်ညာတိုးကဲ့သို့ပုံမျိုးနိုင်တဲ့အပြောင်းမျိုးတဲ့အဲဒီအပြောဟာအစိတ်ဟောင်းနဲ့ပေါ်လာတတ်တယ်
So, at first, one knows theoretically how the mind and matter which are in one's body, they arise and then they pass away. Just now they arose and now they're gone. So first we learn about this theoretically, and trusting in this, if one works respectfully and constantly, practicing in a secluded place, keeping basic sila, observing every arising object. At this time, raga and dosa, the craving for things and anger, these things quiet down. They aren't just calmed, they really die down at this stage. And so the knowing, one's knowing can become very, very quick at this point of knowing the arising and passing away. And at this point, one experiences what is called amanisi riti, this delight that has nothing to do with sense pleasures. Before, human beings mostly think that sense pleasures are the best things that one can experience. But now one finds something that is far better and totally without involvement in sense pleasures. This is called amanusi riti. This arises, and once this type of delight arises that is completely separated from experiencing sense pleasures, one no longer thinks that sense pleasures are so great. Before, one couldn't let go of them. One couldn't separate oneself from sense pleasures. But now one comes to experience a happiness, a pleasure that comes through developing the mind, through developing knowledge. So this arises with momentum.
သူကိုယ်လေးကတော့ပြည့်ပြည့်မပြီးတဲ့သင်္ခါရတရားဆိုတော့သိကြည့်တဲ့သဘောမျိုးတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးအဲဒီပိုင်းတော့ရောက်လာလို့ရှိရင်သက်သာအားထုတ်သိကြည့်တဲ့အမရိကဆိုတာအနေတရားသိကံပြည့်စုံပါလေဒီလိုဆိုတာပါပဲအဲ့ဒီသင်္ခါရပါပဲအဲ့ဒါကောင်းတဲ့တရားအရာပါပဲအဲ့ဒါကောင်းတဲ့ကျိုးတရားကောင်းတဲ့ဒီပတ္တိအကျော်မျိုးတွေပေါ့သိတဲ့အကျော်မျိုးတွေရတော့ပါ
At times, because the noting is very swift, one sees mind and matter arising and passing away very quickly, and very special happiness arises. The yogi is no longer bored with the practice. There is joyous interest that occurs on a small scale, minor piti, and also very strong piti. And this is called amata. These are qualities which are free of death. Sankharas, compound phenomena, conditioned phenomena, things which arise due to causes, these are cannot be called amata. But when one reaches this stage of feeling joy, tranquility, then just continue to practice because one is sure to realize the Dhamma which is free of death. So one can get this both joyful and peaceful experience of iti and passaddhi, the joyous interest and tranquility.
If they are full of this, they are pure reality. You have to have a very standard. You have to have a standard of Sukha. Sukha is the goal of the Yara, the only body. She changes the body. Sometimes the favorite kind of the problem of the body. Kandono, Kandono, Yada, I always want to know that I will see things for that. I think that I will say, you look at the Chanda, they don't. If you just go to the body, you look at the Chanda, the look at the phone, Sukha for the Sayadawgyi is the way how was all see at the body. Sayadawgyi is see a lot of body. Sayadawgyi is an okay.
When one finds these dhammas which are really reliable, really trustworthy, then one feels very good, and this is called sukha. At this stage, sukha, or this feeling good, it seeps through one's whole body, the way water comes from a spring. Comes from the earth into the spring. So this good feeling of sukha is very good. So is the feeling of joy, joyous interest, piti. Similarly, this feels good. There's no suffering at all. And this quality of sukha, or feeling good in body and mind, is so amazing at this stage in the practice that one thinks that this is special Dhamma, but it's not.
You are so good to see, especially you got that she said that for a government to set up the whole of the so that you never this is the body. Let's have to do like that. The Okabana said that for he said that we are using those, we are articles that sound like they see you say articles who will use it for yesterday. How did this all the officials level? The future will cut the thing in our university. Oh, should I say that I did that? Hope you need a money, you need an article to do the I got ready to do that to the body. I took a leave of fire. I took a refuge to show that the hour of fire. When I subject this fire, so that the other are overgone of Kira.
Then there is Atimalka, which is faith. Initially, when one practiced, one would see something that made the mind feel clear, and this is called bright faith. One would just see a little something that made one's mind feel really clear. And then, as knowledge starts to develop, and one sees mind and matter and how they are related as cause and effect, then one acknowledged one's experience, one came to acceptance through knowledge, and this is called Okapana Sada, or you could say informed faith or decisive faith. And as one continues to practice, after having seen how things are related as cause and effect, and one comes to see how mind and matter related as cause and effect arise and then pass away very quickly, the old always being replaced by the new without a break in a fleeting, very fast manner, then a lot of faith arises. One feels this is really right, and because of practicing the method, the correct method, these results have come. So one has faith both in the method of practice and in the results of one's experience, that one experiences from the practice. And one's faith is very amazingly strong at this stage. The faith that arises at this time arises because a yogi is practicing respectfully, continually, and one comes to see. So the faith arises because of respectful practice. When one does not practice at all, or when one practices but not with continuity, when one practices in a superficial way, starting and stopping, this type of faith does not arise. It's faith that comes, it occurs together with Vipassana knowledge in the yogis who are practicing respectfully.
အောက်လည်းကြာမသွားဘူးခုလည်းမလည်းရမနေဘူးအချိန်နဲ့ပြတ်နေတာအပေါ်တက်နေတာအဲဒီဝိရိယမျိုးအတုတ္တရဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တခါတခါစိတ်ဆော်လို့အဖြစ်ကိုဝိရိယတွေပုံကျဲပြီးတော့စိတ်ပြတ်လာလို့ရှိတယ်တခါတခါလည်းပြုပြုပြင်းပြင်းနဲ့အတုတ္တတဲ့အခါကျတော့စိတ်ကိုမလန်းဆန်းလာလည်းရှိတယ်ဒီလာလေးတွေဝင်ပြီးတော့စိတ်အကျမဟုတ်ဘူးကိုယ်စိတ်ကဆက်တဲ့သိနေလဲပိုင်းရောက်လာလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဝိရိယကပုံမှန်ဖြစ်လာတယ်။အောက်လည်းကြာတော့ဘူး။ဒီတော့လည်းစိတ်ကြည့်တော့လည်းစိတ်စောလုံးလာလည်းရှိဘူး။ပုံမှန်အချိန်နဲ့ဖြစ်နေတဲ့ဝိရိယတွေဒါတော့လည်းတရားရှိလို့ဆင်ရတော့အောင်ပေါ့။ဝိရိယတွေပေါလာတော့တယ်။ကိုယ်ကမမှတ်ဘူးလို့ဆိုရင်လည်းအလိုလိုပဲဒီဝိရိယကအချိန်ပါနေတော့မရတာဖြစ်နေတာလေအတ္တရတာဖြစ်နေတာလေအနာဟောတော့တယ်
At this time, there's a quality also called pagaha that arises in a very special way. Pagaha means effort that doesn't decline. It also doesn't stop in the middle. It doesn't just stagnate. It always increases with momentum. At the start of the practice, sometimes one had too much effort in observing the object and the mind would become scattered. And sometimes the mind would become lazy or sluggish. It wouldn't feel fresh. And then sloth and torpor would set in. So the effort was sometimes not balanced. It was either up or down. And now, at this stage in the practice, the effort is regular. The effort is all right. It's not too weak and it's not excessive. It's just going along in a regular way. And one thinks even that one is not making any effort at all to note the object. It seems to be very amazing to one at this stage.
Upatana is a Shiva. Upatana Yana is really the river. Upatana is Akamata, as it is your Shiva. It is here and the Akamata Shiva. Probably what the Buddha are. So many bodies. To be sent up. So the idea that we have this system of shadow higher. So the idea of higher. So the story is so the idea of our shadow. So Yahoo to Suna to Sanu, Baru, and Suicide of the body. Kind of the one of everything.
And then there's the quality of upatana, which is another word for sati. This sati occurs together with vipassana knowledge. It occurs when vipassana knowledge is good. So it is very good sati. Starting with the rising and the falling, this sati is able to observe every arising object steadfastly. And because of this steadfast observation, the sati becomes very firm. It is steadfast and firm, and it seems to be like to have the quality of iron or something like that. It's so firm on the object.
ပြေးပြီးတော့ပတ်တော့တာအလုံးစုံအဲ့ဒါတော့ပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒါတော့ပြီးဆွေးနွေးတဲ့တတိရောလို့ဆိုလို့ရတယ်
Even the very small objects in one's body which arise, one's sati can observe them without missing very firmly. So this seems to be very amazing to the yogi.
အဲ့ဒီတတိရောတွေတော်တော်လေးအတန်လာတဲ့အခါမှာခက်နေရတဲ့အကြောင်းအရာတွေတော့မှအသိဖြစ်တယ်လို့ဖြစ်လာတတ်ပါတယ်ရိုးရိုးစဉ်းစားလို့ရှိရင်မပေါ်နိုင်တဲ့အားတွေတော့မှဒါကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကိုရှိရှိနေပေါ်လာတတ်တဲ့တော့မှအမြင်ဉာဏ်ရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေဟာသမဏလောကကြီးနှလုံးသွင်းကြည့်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်ရှင်းနေလို့ပေါ့ရောရတယ်ကိုယ်တတိအလိုက်ပေါ့လေဒီပိုင်းရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီကံကတော့ဆက်လက်ဆက်နေလာတော့တတိယရဲ့အထူးကိုထူးကောင်းလာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဉာဏ်ရဲ့အကြောင်းအရာလေးမသိသားနဲ့ဒီလိုပေါ်လာတာရှိတတ်ပါတယ်ကွာနှလုံးသွင်းနေပေါ့လေတတိယရဲ့စိတ်ပြီးတော့ထူးကြလာတတ်တယ်ကွာကိုယ်ရဲ့ပေါ်တဲ့ဟာတွေပိုင်ပိုင်နိုင်နိုင်ရှိရှိနေမှမိတာတော့အထူးပြောချက်ပြီးတော့စိတ်ကအကြောင်းရတယ်ဆိုတော့ပေါ်လာ
So when this kind of sati arises and becomes strong, then one remembers things which happened when one was very young. Things that if one tried to, one would not be able to remember them ordinarily. But these come into one's mind without any difficulty. And people, it seems like they see the world very, very clearly. Their knowledge is very sharp, and the things, every time one observes, the sati becomes more and more special. So needless to say, what happens in one's body is very, very clear to one, and also the things that happened in the past just appear very clearly, the things that one wouldn't have been able to think about before.
ဒီပိုင်းရောက်လာလို့ဖြစ်ရှိရုပ်ကသစ္စာကအများကြီးပြည့်စုံလာတော့သူတို့ကရုပ်နဲ့သိထားတဲ့တရားတွေပေါ်မှာကျုံလိုက်ပေါ်လို့ဉာဏ်ကြားတဲ့ဉာဏ်နဲ့သာရှိတိုင်းပေါ်မစ္စရာအရာပြုလို့ဆိုလည်းမဟုတ်လောဘမဖြစ်မစ္စရာအရာပြုလို့လည်းမဟုတ်ဒေါသမဖြစ်သိရနေတယ်ဒီလိုရှိလို့ဒီကတည်းကမျိုးပါပဲသိရတော့ရှိနေတယ်ဒီသိရတဲ့စိတ်ကလေးတွေရတယ်အောက်ကိုပေါင်းအောင်ဖြစ်လာတာပါအဲ့ဒီကမျိုးပါဆက်တဲ့ဟိုကအရင်ပေါ်လာတယ်သိရတဲ့စိတ်ကဥဒ္ဒေတဲ့စိတ်ကလည်းအဲ့ဒီစိတ်ကလည်းတန်တန်ပြီးရောက်သွားတာပါအဝိသနာခေါ်တယ်လောကဝိသနာခေါ်ရတယ်အရင်ပေါ်လာတယ်အလို့ဘာလို့ဆိုတော့ဒါကလည်းပေါ်လာတဲ့အောင်နဲ့ရှိမှတဲ့စိတ်နဲ့ထိတ်တဲ့ရှိပြီးတော့ဘောလို့စတဲ့နှလုံးသွင်းမှုလေးတွေကဆက်နေတော့နောက်ပိုင်းကလိုက်တဲ့စိတ်တွေဟာလည်းသိနာလေးကြီးရတော့တာပါပဲဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါလည်းသိကြပါတော့ဒီမှာအဲ့ဒါအကျဉ်းဆောက်ပေါ်ပါတယ်သိရတော့ရှိနေတာလို့ပေါ်ချင်းအောင်ရမစိတ်နဲ့စိတ်သက်ရှိအောင်လည်းရှိနေတာ
What's the word for awakener in English? Reflective. I forgot the word. Okay. At this stage, on all sides, the yogi's energy is complete. On all sides, the yogis develop energy. So whatever compound phenomena one encounters, every seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, when there's something desirable that arises, there's no lobha, no greed. When something hateful arises, there's no dosa or anger. One is balanced with respect to every object that arises. One has equanimity. And this equanimous mind also occurs in a very amazing way. As soon as the object arises, the mind is there to, it's called avajjana consciousness. And it's just like saying hello. It acknowledges the object. And the mind, the series of minds that follows this, is very clean, very clean. So this is the quality of upekkha, that is able to observe whatever object arises in a balanced, equanimous way, in a suitable way.
Every brother Sayadawgyi you go we have the yoga something that you do is for other Sayadawgyi who do something that you do. Every Sayadawgyi that is for other Madina Davo, Lama, Indriyas before Sugudari Pora, they call it Diari Bala to the body. Madina Sali body, the Taya Husika. Kamo Bari for the Putete Arabic, my mother, who was young, we are Lulu. Everything you would be a yard, you and the Sahara, you can do that. They would have been a little bit of a yogi to put up on it. They are there, where I'm going to the pit of Tibetan. They put a share of my life. My friend, I don't know this, you know. They are not so put up on it. Who you don't do don't do the yoga and the other one. People will slip out. To the prayer, to the water to slip over. To you who slip over, see us. To the people that will better than the other. You say, what you take it down and go down.
The qualities that Sayadawgyi has spoken about just now, these dhammas, are clean, wholesome dhammas, which arise at the immature stage of uddiyabhijnana, that is, at the immature stage, or the initial stage of seeing the past arising and passing away of phenomena. And when these types of things arise, one feels this is something I haven't experienced before, and now this is arising, and one tends to take pleasure in them, very subtle, taking pleasure. Sense objects, we're beings that live in a realm of the senses, and we like sense experience. But sense experience is gross, and the types of things that one experiences these tastes of the Dhamma are very subtle in comparison. So there tends to be a very subtle taking pleasure in these things, which is called nikanti. It's craving for them, but it's very subtle. And it's not good, but it happens. So one has to note it. And if one doesn't note it, then it will defile or ruin the knowledge which is able to see how the mind and matter that is related as cause and effect arises and then passes away, how it is suffering, and how it is without an inherent self. The craving, this nikanti, will cause vipassana to not occur anymore. So all these factors are called the defilements of insight because they can become the cause for our knowledge to become defiled.
တဏှာအရင်ကျင်းပြီးပါလာတဲ့ပါပြီးတော့ပြောရှင်လာတဲ့စာတွေဖြစ်တယ်။ဒီမှာသိဝိရဲ့တဏှာလေးပါတဲ့ပြောရှင်မှုကကောင်းတယ်လို့ဆိုရတာပါ။ဒါပေမဲ့လို့အရင်ကျင်းပါလာတဲ့ဆိုရင်လက်တော်ပြားကမကောင်းတယ်လို့ပြောယူထားတော့ဒီစိတ်ကျင်းတဲ့ဆန္ဒမျိုးမှာတကယ်ဆန္ဒမျိုးပဲဒီကိစ္စကောင်းတာရှိပါသေးတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီကံထားကြရတယ်ကရုံးကိုပြောလို့ရုံးရတယ်ယုံကြည်ပြီးတော့ဆက်အားထုတ်လို့ရှိရင်ခုနဟာလေးအဖြစ်ပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒါလေးကျော်သွားတာပဲသုံးသုံးရုံးတာတရားတွေပေါ်မှာအဖြစ်ဆက်ကိုလည်းဘောလို့ဟုတ်တော့ပဲသူရှင်းသိအရှင်းသေးတယ်ဘာလို့ဒါကမှလို့ကောင်းလာတာနောက်ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်နဲ့အဖြစ်တိုင်းဆက်သွားတာပဲအဲဒီပြန်ရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်သိတဲ့အသိဉာဏ်ကိုသမာဓိကောင်းတော့သိတဲ့အသိဉာဏ်တတိယကောင်းတော့သမာဓိအသိဉာဏ်ကျေပြတ်တဲ့အသိဉာဏ်သိရှိခြင်းတတ္တတရားကကောင်းတော့ဒီလိုပြတ်သားတဲ့အသိဉာဏ်သိရှိလို့သိတဲ့အသိဉာဏ်ဝိရိယလည်းအစိမ့်နဲ့ဖြစ်တော့တာဖြစ်တော့တိုးတက်တဲ့အသိဉာဏ်နဲ့အဲဒီအသိဉာဏ်ကိုထူးခြားတဲ့ဖြစ်လာတော့တာပါပဲအဲဒီအသိဉာဏ်ကိုထူးခြားတဲ့ဖြစ်ပုံကတော့ဖြစ်ပုံကိုတော့နောက်နေကြပါပဲသာသနာ့လက်တွေ့ပေါင်းစပ်ပြီးပြောပါတော့မယ်ဒီနည်းကတော့ခဏလေးလည်းဆိုတော့ဖြစ်တော့ဒါနဲ့အဆုံးသတ်ကြအောင်လို့
If compared with a happiness which contains a lot of craving, one has to say that a happiness containing only an extremely subtle level of craving, or tanha, is good. But what contains defilements, the Buddha classified as not good. A happiness which is free of craving is real happiness. There is something better than this. The meditation teacher tells the yogi, and if the yogi believes this and continues to practice, he or she won't think highly of what was just spoken about. He or she goes beyond them. The observation of the arising and passing away of mind and matter, which are related as cause and effect, is no longer as originally, but becomes clearer, peaceful, and good to note. Then vipassana knowledge increases. When one has reached this stage, there is knowledge which is keen due to good samadhi. Due to good sati, knowledge is strong and broad. Due to faith, which clarifies the mind, knowledge is clear, precise, and bright. And because the momentum of virya increases, knowledge progresses. Knowledge occurs in a special way. How this knowledge becomes special is something which Sayadawgyi will explain tomorrow night, combining theory and practice. Today, a little bit more than an hour is over, so let's stop here for tonight.